against the dominant narrative that the goal in life is to be happy. I call upon the Prime Minister. Here.
To most people, happiness is the ultimate end goal. At the same time, we think, unfortunately, a lot of these people are blinded as to what happiness should be. And the pursuit of that, we think, on government side is toxic and harmful. This is a regret motion. So we will tell you in our stance what we perceive our world to be if happiness isn't the dominant narrative. What does our world look like? We think that life shouldn't have any specific goals or any constant pursuit of a single thing. So we don't think in our world we will devoid people of happiness or devoid people of sadness. The way we perceive these emotions like happiness or sadness is that these are just random moments in life out of many other things. So the way we imagine humans in our world to interact in their daily activities is that they live in the moment, that they go with the flow. And if they decide to appreciate the moments in life and to see why this room is so cold and it's really nice to be cold, then I'll be happy. But at the same time, if I lose this round and I just feel that life is meaningless, for example, maybe my partner dumped me, I can be sad, I might not want to go to work tomorrow, and to even extreme ends, if this person believes that killing himself is the best way to go forward, we will also allow that and we will also support that. I think the important part to note here is that the main distinction in our world and theirs is that in their world, there is a constant pursuit of happiness, even if it gets hard, even if it is easy, but there is a constant pursuit of that happiness as its end goal. So 2 points of argumentation in my speech. Number one, why is the construction of happiness harmful? And second, why is it hard to achieve this? Number one, why is construction of happiness harmful? We don't think that opposition can fiat that each individual will have personalized happiness. We think that probably this will apply to some minority circumstances, but a large majority of people won't be. Why is this true? Number one, we think that often happiness will be things like materialistic wealth, things like consumerism. Because often, a lot of advertisements, a lot of things like capitalism, products that we buy, food that we eat, define what a happy life looks like. For example, the American dream is lying back in your pool with a large green yard and being a wealthy American Wall Street investment banker. It could also be Asian parents telling you that in order to be happy, you need to work hard to attain those grades. But also, it could be things like pop culture and media that defines what happiness should be. I quote Naveen's tweet, Harvey Specter has an emotional intelligence of a tadpole, but people still follow him. And the reason why people still follow him is because these are one of the most dominant narratives of what happiness should be. What we also think happiness looks like in their world, take a seat, is that you should have high social status. For example, people posting on Instagram with their great friends, with their Gucci Supreme clothes and their jewelry, having fun in bar atas or having fun in Telawi or whatever bars they choose to go to. But these are expectations of what happiness should be, that you must be funny, that you must be charming, that you are an alpha male, and more often than not, probably handsome. But I think the important part to note here is that we acknowledge that these constructions of happiness also exist in our world. But we think that with our world, we think it is easier to avoid being influenced by these constructions of happiness. So for example, we don't have to abide by these constructions of happiness because life can be meaningless. But if we do think that this is the way to go, we don't have to pursue it until the end. We can quit in the middle because we don't think that this should be what our ultimate end goal is. Second point of argumentation, why is it hard to achieve this? I think number one is just privilege. I think everyone's quite familiar with this argument, that forms of happiness are just quite inaccessible, right? Sometimes it's really up to randomness, and a lot of people sometimes just aren't born smart, sometimes aren't born rich. There might be a lot of structural things that oppress you from achieving that forms of happiness or achieving the forms of materialistic wealth and consumeristic happiness. So I think everyone's familiar with this argument. I won't go on to talk to you about those examples. But what's the harm of this? What's the harm of this? Take a seat. I think there are two harms. The first harm is that even though in their world, people would work hard to achieve that happiness or achieve that end goal, we think that working hard comes at a cost. Because oftentimes you might be physically strained. You need to hustle, right? You need to you face a lot of mental stress, and sometimes just working in the investment bank in Goldman Sachs means that you also have to work 15 hours a day and you don't really get a lot of sleep. You just don't think it's worth it to trade this off. Take a seat. Second, we also think that you lose sight of things that actually do make you happy. So for example, walking in a park, spending time with your family. So we will acknowledge, sometimes walking in a park or spending time with your friends can also be achieved alongside their goal, alongside trying to achieve their ultimate end goal. But the difference is, in their world, they would downplay the happiness of these instances. We think spending time with your family is just like on face value, just as you can be just as happy spending time with your family or being an investment banker in Wall Street, but you can't in their world because people will be too stuck in perceiving what the ultimate happiness end goal should be, that everything else before that does not really matter, or everything else before that is not equal to the amount of, is not equal to the ultimate end goal. But also we just think that if this is your ultimate end goal, you just tend to like lose focus, or you don't notice other things in life that might make you happy, and that's quite problematic. Right. Sure.
So your problem is actually that there is a standard to happiness that is driven by things like social media and billboard, not in so much of the narrative in of itself. But tell me, the social media and billboard still exist on your side, would it then not dictate what your narrative or what meaningless or YOLO should be?
Okay, I just said why. I really, if you watch live stream on your phone right now, I really just said we acknowledge that these narratives will exist on our side, but the difference is we don't have to abide by this because life might be meaningless. But even if we do have to abide by this, we don't have to pursue it to the end. We can quit halfway, right? So what's the important part of this? I think the important part of this is that, so let's assume the best. Even if they do achieve this end goal on their side, even if they choose true ultimate happiness, what then? We think that we should look at a lot of people, for example, like Kate Spade, Mac Miller, Demi Lovato, then they are the epitome of what achieving happiness is and achieving their goal. But a lot of these people still don't feel happy. The reason why they still don't feel happy is because a lot of these times the construction of happiness is prescribed to them. It's not actually happiness that they would want. We think that over time, they would develop things like depression or develop things like anxiety, but a lot of people would downplay their mental issues. They will say that, but you've already achieved happiness, you're already a top star celebrity, why should you still not be happy? The same thing applies for minorities, that in the pursuit of the ultimate end goal of happiness, it might be hard, but people tell these minorities, well, it's temporary, just go through with it, you'll be happy either way. But the last thing why this is quite hard to achieve is because even if you do achieve the ultimate end goal of happiness, we think that happiness often upscales continuously. And the reason why it upscales continuously is because often there are new things that are invented in the world to define what happiness should or should not be. And that's a world we do not want to live in. We would rather live in a world where we should live in the moment, appreciate the moments in life, and if life isn't really that happy, like it's funny to, like, it might be happy for me to watch Amma suffer also. That could possibly be what our world looks like.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I talk on with the leader of opposition, Robert Yaki. Here.
Beyonce once said in a song, "My aspiration in life is to be happy." I actually don't know what the fuck she meant. It can be because she has accumulated wealth. It can be because she has been giving her children terrible names. But all I want to say is, happiness is an amorphous concept that is personalized. Because as much as the government wants you to think that, there are standards that are placed upon. Note that these standards are just means for you to seek happiness, i.e. there are conflicting standards that are able to cater to every single one out there that is dependent on you to be able to seek what truly means to you at that point of time. So we would like to counter and say that in my opposition bench, it's simple. The burden is that happiness is a much better narrative as compared to any alternative. I will engage them on their carpe diem narrative that they're talking about. But secondly, the reason why we want it to be dominant is because we believe that for its benefit to materialize to everyone, it has to be a dominant narrative that everyone adheres to it. Because not later on in my speech, I'll tell you the 6 degrees of happiness, how you can seek it, that's different from the very gray slate that they wanted to paint. So I have 2 arguments for you today. Number 1, I'll tell you why life is tough. No one's going to contend that. But we're going to tell you why there is a need for a dominant narrative to push you through life if they concede that life is important. Because somehow they still want people to live but live in the moment. Secondly, I'll give you the 6 degrees of happiness that I'm going to say later. But before that, several points of reputations that don't fit. The first thing that I want you to believe is that you cannot personalize happiness. These are things that are forced down your throat and therefore you have to abide by it. Is it true though? Initially, yes. When you're a working adult and you first entered after college, your means is to say, I want to be able to apply for my first credit card. I want to be able to apply for my first house at the age of 30. All these things happen to you. But the thing about happiness is tricky. With happiness comes sadness. With happiness comes realization that not every single thing that you wanted is achievable. Happiness works in mysterious ways, i.e., you can always change the means of how you seek happiness. Meaning to say that we will not deny that everyone goes through a phase of sadness where you're unable to achieve what you want. But that is what happiness allows you. It allows you to constantly tweak your expectations of what happiness is, allows you to seek other alternative methods to seek. Because all of this means that they want to talk about, we concede it exists. But in their world, it exists without a means to seek happiness. In their world, materialism exists insofar as a tool to drive people to do work, but doesn't give people any form of happiness, or don't tell people that at least I can take this money to go back. People living in the moment in their world means that materialism forces you to constantly live in the moment without knowing what the end goal is or what I can get from it, and therefore not knowing that if I work harder, I might get money. Money means my family can be happier. All of those things they have to recognize. You cannot just simply say it exists, but it won't be pervasive. You have to also tell me why the counter narrative is true. Secondly, even if the best case that they say is pervasive, is not objective, is go by means. But the extent and the threshold what every single individual seeks to be happiness differs. Materialism exists insofar as seeking of extra wealth is good. But to Vinod, for example, he's a lawyer. To him, it's like, oh, he must earn enough money to be able to fund his lifestyle with his boyfriend. I'm so sorry, with his partner, which is good. But to me, it can just be, I want to be able to buy a bottle every time I go clubbing so that at least I don't get chased out when my bottle finishes. These are all differing means of materialism. That means that there is subjective standard to everyone. So even if you buy the best case, that these standards are imposed on people, how people perceive of the extent that they should go differs. Also, this you cannot quit halfway. Bollocks. No one says that my life is to be happy. Every single milestone that you get, you feel happy. If your weight is to go on a keto diet and lose weight, you don't only get happy when you lose 10 kilos. Every single 0.5 kilos that you go, you are happy. Meaning to say that it will always challenge you to push forward. It will always be a guiding principle. If you feel that's unattainable, i.e. in your first diet phase, you end up gaining weight, then you can just say that maybe I'm happy like this. Maybe I don't want to live my societal expectation, because happiness comes from within. This is the thing that they need to understand. Okay, moving into arguments. Firstly, why life is tough. You need to know that a lot of times when people work, especially me right now, I find that it's harder to love myself every day. Life has been tough. There are a lot of office politics going on. It's very hard for me to know what necessarily pushes me forward. If you have no narrative on that side and you live in the moment, I will live every night knowing that I didn't fulfill my quota, I didn't do my work properly, people look at me and I'll never get a promotion that's due in 2 months. Life is like this. There are always pursuits and expectations placed upon you, but you need to remind yourself, and there needs to be a dominant narrative to tell you that it's worth living. Living in the moment doesn't tell you how you can be able to get by this. Living in the moment tells you that it's a constant cycle of living by the means without knowing what the end goal is. We think that in our world, life is worth living, and therefore we think that it's easier to translate to the masses. Meaning to say that the world that we live in, the dominant narrative must be one that's accessible by everyone and is given to everyone so that everyone understands that happiness in the 6 degrees that I tell you later can be personalized. Secondly, 6 degrees of happiness. First degree, happiness is dictated on your own terms. Meaning to say that even though it is based on existing yardsticks, it is something that you tailor it to your means. I.e., there are no objective standards of what it means to be happy. No one tells you that you must own a house in Telawi to be happy. People tell you you need to have a roof, you can afford to pay rent to be happy. So we think that it's personalized and dictated by your own terms. Contrasting with the narratives that they want to talk about, which for some example, you must live in the moment. How is it that everyone, for example, in that world, when they want to be happy, cannot, you must live in the moment. Yeah, that's the narrative. So we think that it's easier, and the fact that there's the diversity in ways they can seek it means that it's easier on our side compared to their narrative. Secondly, happiness changes. Meaning to say that whatever they are talking about is the phase. When you're young, you're materialistic. When you're old, you want to spend time. All of these things changes according to your means, and therefore we think that it's malleable. Sadness exists, but sadness is temporary. We want people to be able to realize that they're able to move forward, and the constant pursuit of happiness means that as far as they fail in this regard, it is not over. Seek other alternative means. Before I go on to the other four, go.
There are different versions of materialistic happiness as to what it is supposed to be happy. It might be easy to achieve, but once you achieve that, don't you think it starts to upscale because now you have nothing else going on with your life?
Good. So if right now, if you look at all those Raya ads, everyone wants to go back and, for example, is able to celebrate with a bucket of KFC. You might be satisfied with KFC now, and it makes your family happy in the moment. But in the long run, you tell yourself, I want to bring more KFCs. I want to upgrade the Texas chicken. These are all examples about materialism that exist. Third argument, life Happiness is accessible by all. So unlike the things that they say, it doesn't require you to be born in specific life. I.e., you don't have to be, like if you want to be athlete, you have to be good in genetics. If you want, for example, to be rich, you have to be privileged and born with wealth. All of these things are changeable under our side because you don't need to be born into a certain way to seek happiness. Fourth thing, happiness is fulfilling. It's unlimited. We agree that there's a progression of you increasing, but it can change in different forms. It can change in different status, i.e., you can always malleable, meaning to say that if you're old and you're retired, you have money, but you can then seek to spend more time because time becomes more important later on. 5, happiness cannot be counterable because once we establish that happiness is personalized, no one can tell you that your version of happiness is wrong. Lastly, happiness is achievable. There is no end goal to happiness because happiness means that you can place it upon short-term happiness, long-term happiness. Happiness tells you that there is no such thing that you must achieve this way to be happy because it's dictated on your own terms. I just want to be able to earn enough money and to win this and can, like, drink on Tuesday without worrying that I lost in the final. So we think that happiness is dictated on your own terms. Extremely proud of course.
The unfortunate reality that we live in today's debate, in this world, is that not everyone can make the conceptions of happiness different. Wazir Kaha was the most religious fucker I know, who would count. I'm not Islamic or Muslim, but he would count whether I puasa or not. Like, what's the point? He was privileged though. He met people, nice people like you guys in debate, and realized that his conception of happiness isn't necessarily to become the religious person to go see that guy up there, but perhaps just to do whatever you want. He also goes to clubbing sometimes also. I think this is the important thing. This is the important thing to know in this debate. Their case only operates in a world where you are able to get counter narratives and you're able to internalize different forms of happiness. This whole debate, and to be honest, we had a lot of material below, we had a lot of material here, but it's just the on top part that we need to resolve, which is happiness malleable in this world? And I'll deal with that in my first issue. Before that, I have 2 points of responses to deal with. The first thing is about milestones. Patrick suggested that when you go on a keto diet, when you reach milestones, you'll be happy. We say, yes, you can still feel happiness under your side in these long-term goals. The difference is, under our side, you still think that it's not enough, right? So in our world, since we don't care about winning this debate tournament, we were so fucking happy we won the semis. But in other people who only want to win the finals, won't recognize that perhaps it's okay. Like I forgot about the happiness of reaching the semis because I need to win the final. So for your diet, you need to reach your end goal. Like in MBO, we were trying so hard, and when we won, it was great. But when we drove home, you're like, okay. Right? That's what happens in your world. When you reach your achievements, you realize that it's nothing much. And that's why they didn't deal with our extension on depression, on people just realizing their goals and achieving them, but not necessarily being happy by it, right? The second thing, they say that we need to get past things to make worth life living. So you keep, you motivate yourself to go even further. The problem with this argument is that it doesn't acknowledge that a lot of people can't go further, right? I think we skipped the analysis of privilege because we assume that everyone got it, so I will continue putting it up. You might not get a job because you're African American. Okay, so because of that, I think in this situation, a lot of people can't achieve their goals when they work harder. I think it's even harder under your side because you tell these individuals, work harder, you're going to achieve your goals soon. You feel depressed, it's okay, you're going to get that promotion sooner or later. The conception of happiness under your side that happens in your world forces people to be stuck in continuously trying to progress themselves when sometimes they might not. They might say, oh, but there are new conceptions of happiness, there are different standards. What if you want to smoke up and smoke cigarettes? Right? I think the difference is this. Under our world, people can easily access these things. Under your world, people may commit these things, but it's because we see cool people posting about 420. So it's still prescribed towards you, and you still go for these things. The last thing that they say is that when you, the main issue that is really important is why people are more unhappy. So the first thing is about the malleability of this particular happiness and whether it can change. So they accepted that there are structures that prescribe different forms of things for you. So materialism, if you're a religious person, is achieving nirvana or whatever Buddhist people think. I think the important thing to note is that these things are really, really strong in towards people. Their benefits will only materialize if you learn counter narratives that perhaps there are different conceptions of happiness. They say, oh, there are different conceptions of happiness. But to a lot of individuals, they don't meet these things. We live in a pretty okay place, right, where we can do whatever we want. But in a lot of situations, people don't. People are stuck in their religious communities. People are stuck with their tiger parents. All these situations means that you are unable to realize that there are different conceptions of happiness. The second nuance that I have to say about this particular issue and why it's not malleable is because it's like, so in both worlds, materialism is seen as a good thing, but in your world, materialism is not only seen as a good thing, but it's what makes you happy. And in our world, we say, fuck that attachment, right? Materialism may make you happy, it may not make you happy, you just do what you want. That's the unique difference under our side, that you don't have to be happy, and that happiness is attached towards this materialism and standards that they have. The second thing that we would like to point out is this whole idea of like depression, and like, I think this is a really, really important argument that they failed to deal with, right? Firstly, before I bring back what Ben said, I just think this argument is super important because, like, I have a lot of friends who are facing depression. I'm not fucking joking. I have a lot of friends who are facing depression, and I really don't know what to do. Because I'll tell them to do this, I'll tell them to do that, try this, try that. But for some individuals, they just convince themselves that there's nothing going for them. In your world, people like Liu Chung will just be like, oh, do this, it might make you happy. Do this, it might make you happy. But I think to be more understanding towards people who are depressed, sometimes it's not about being like happy, but just do what you want. And to a certain extent, that's why we're willing to bite the bullet. For these cases where people convince themselves that they're depressed and there's no way out, they will tell them fight harder and get that promotion. We'll tell them it's okay if you want to go. I think also there's more analysis that we said in this particular issue that they failed to deal with. We also said that you downplay a lot of depression from people, right? We did it in two nuances. The first nuance was for very rich people. People said, you got like kids paid, you're like the, okay, I don't know what she was doing. I think she's designing bags or something like that. Like, you're the pioneer of this industry. Why are you not happy? People can't fathom this. Like, your side, people are less compassionate towards depressed people because you just can't fathom. Why are these people happy? Like, I think that's a severe harm that you downplay a lot of rich people's depression. It also means that if you believe that everyone can have this prescribed goal of happiness, you're more likely to tell these people who are undergoing their process of reaching that goal that if you feel depressed, if you feel sad, it's okay, because these are sacrifices and struggles that you have to make, so that in the future you're able to achieve your goal, and that's what makes you happy. And note, a lot of times this won't make you happy.
So if depression is a state that motivates and knowledge can happen to an individual, in our world we tell them that happiness can be seen in other ways, therefore getting out of the state. If your world tells them to live in the moment, how exactly do you escape from depression? So I think this goes back to the issue of whether it's malleable or not. Your side, you can't say that your side tells you to find other conceptions of happiness because you're always bombarded with what is good and what is bad. Under our side, if you live in the moment, and I think I really said it like quite emotionally, like it's okay if you want to do whatever you want, like end your suffering, it's okay. If you want to like not do your job, it's fine also. Okay, I'm sort of done, but I haven't reached 7, so I'm going to give like a long opening line. Like, my whole life, I was prescribed that going into University of Malaya will make me happy because my dad is there, I want to be there. To that I say fuck it. I want to go to UITM, Shah Alam. You listen to government's logic. To be happy is to be cool, to do something that external sources have told you is happiness. If that is true, none of us will be here today. Because this is a boring ass sport that is ridiculed by every section of society. But you're here because it doesn't matter what society told you. It doesn't matter that you have to be a cool athlete. You know that you're not an athlete. You know that you probably will never be an athlete. But you understood that this sport will bring you happiness regardless of what other people say. So I don't understand why can't you have the autonomy to say, no, I don't want that. I want to do this makes me happy. So they can't be seen as no counter narrative. The narrative that you talk about are man-made. Therefore, it is something that we can rectify and something that we can fix. Two issues. One, standard. Secondly, on the alternative, then I'll talk about my substantive. Let's talk about the standard. Yes, we agree. External standard on face value is bad. People shouldn't tell you what to become. The solution is to fix those standards. The solution is not to run away from it. The solution is not to run away from being happy altogether. The solution is for you to define on your own terms that what happiness is to you. Because happiness is a beautiful thing. Don't just run away from it because other people are telling you what to do. Therefore, the question is, can we do it? Can we push for the eradication of externally imposed happiness? We say can, for the simple reason that it is man-made. Whatever that you talked about, the cool pictures, corporations, Goldman Sachs, those things are man-made. So we can also create a counter-narrative that we see in status quo. People giving motivational speeches. That it's okay for you to quit your job, go to Bali and live your life. It's okay for you to be a monk. It's okay for you to take a lesser pay cut and pursue your hobby. These things are counter-narratives. These things are existing in status quo. And in our world, we will make that the dominant one and will continue to push for it. You cannot say that these things don't exist. Therefore, given that this counter-narrative exists, you must then engage with it. You can't just say that it's an external issue. Given that this counter-narrative now exists, tell me why happiness is still a bad thing. Even then, we went further. We said, okay, even if this is an externally imposed standard, we'll bite it. Because these standards are still malleable. If the standard is for you to have money, it's not that $1 million is the end goal. You can end up with 20,000 ringgit. You can end up with 30,000 ringgit. You can cater it to your own needs. Even if getting a car is the best thing in the world, it doesn't have to be a Merc. It doesn't have to be a Maserati. It could be my old Vira that I'm very happy to drive. So those things are still malleable and adjustable towards us. So therefore, even if it's external, these are some things that we can still adjust our own. Like I haven't said after this maybe. But at the end of it, we will still argue to you that these standards are something that you can define on your own. They have to tell us why it is that you can't tell yourself what you want to do to be happy. Second issue on alternative. The alternative is simple. There's no goal, there's no pursuit. For God's sake, that'll be the most boringest world for you to ever live in. Their world is a world where you suffer from the void of nothingness. No purpose, no nothing at all. Just walk around like one bloody idiot, kick the light. What am I going to do today? That's it. That is their world that they live in. And that's the world that we say is the most boring world, and it's a world that will torment you the most. Simply because there's no excitement towards the world. There's nothing for you to look for. There's nothing for you to aspire. Everyone wants to talk about personal example, right? So here's mine. Debating probably made me happy back then. But when I quit debating because I had to work, I felt empty. I didn't know what to do. No reason to get out of bed because there's nothing to look forward for. Until I found something else that I could do. Something else that I decided on my own terms, and I'm pursuing it right now. Every single day, and that made me happy. Your world is a world where people wake up every morning with no goals, no purpose, no sight, just walking around with emptiness, with nothingness. Our world is a world where I tell you, be happy, go pursue whatever it is that you would like to pursue. So your alternative is one where you subject people to every second of torment. Even if our happiness is momentary, even if it happens in the split of a second, at least it happens. We feel happiness for the split second. You say that you want MDO. Yes, you are happy when you want it. The alternative is you not even going to MDO. You're just sitting on your bed, looking at the fan, thinking, what am I doing in life? There's no goal, there's no pursuit. So done with that alternative. Now let's talk about my argumentation. I'm going to argue to you that how once you make this a dominant narrative, it guides you in solving everyday conflicts and dilemmas. Conflict and dilemma will exist either way. So you will have to often prioritize different stakeholders. You have to prioritize your parents, your boyfriend, or society. And this is also the narrative that's out there, that you should listen to your parents. You should prioritize family values. You should prioritize your boyfriend. You should prioritize what society values, what society dictates of you. Given that all of these narratives exist, we say that these narratives are the bad ones because it comes at the expense of your happiness. You make certain decisions that comes at the expense of your happiness because you would like to take care of other individuals. Which is why we say there is an absolute need for this to be the dominant narrative. Because when you make this the dominant narrative, you become the priority. Screw everything else. Screw what your parents told you to do. Screw your perceived boyfriend. Not literally, but you get what I mean. The end of the day is, it is something that you comfort. It is in your world where you have all these other narratives that counteract one another that makes you stay in a abusive relationship. Because, oh no, your boyfriend is going to kill himself. In our world, fuck it, go and kill yourself. It doesn't matter. My happiness matters and I'm not happy being with you right now. Therefore, the prioritization becomes about you. In your world, you have to prove to me that all these other narratives exist. Why is it harmful
for you to choose all these other narratives? And what's the counter to that? We propose to you a counter. Prioritize yourself. Yes, my man.
So even if in your world a lot of people have different, unique, personalized forms of happiness, these people still have to go out, interact with people, talk to people, watch TV, go to jobs, and that's when your interpretation will be influenced one over another, and you don't really have your version of what happiness should be.
I really can't understand you, Ben. I understand you have your interpretation of happiness. I don't understand why when I talk to you, Benjamin, how are you doing? Oh shit, now I forgot what my happiness is. No, if I have a goal inside, yeah, because that was exactly a POI, right? Like, I have my goals. I work. I talk to thousands of people every day. But in that process, I didn't forget what my goal was. You know? Okay. Last argumentation. How this prevents opportunistic parties that what they want to talk about. We think the narrative that you sell, the bad things that you talk about often emanate from capitalistic society. Corporations tell you that happiness is when you work harder. This is the standard that you ought to pursue so that you can garner capital for that. Car makers say this is the standard that you must pursue, therefore they have a demand to buy the BMW. Once you have our model, where happiness is dictated on your own term, that's when you will prevent all these individuals from capitalizing on it. I'll end this by saying this. Maybe happiness comes with some baggages. Maybe happiness comes with sadness. But it is far more superior than a world where you are literally not doing anything. For those reasons, I'm very proud to oppose.
That speech, I call upon the government with some of their
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that although we agree that in their world they can have counter narratives, but they kind of argue that all narratives will be equally represented. And I think that's what we see. Right? We're quite generous. We see that true, you might have different degrees or different ideas of what makes you happy, but not all of these are equally represented. There are no ads that show you that you can happy by being alone, like being an artist or like having no money. There's no ad that shows you that. So it means that even if it's true that in their world they have some counter narratives, it's also true that they also force a lot of people into one dominant narrative, and I think they can't just say people can pick and choose, right? At some point, it is prescribed to them. And also, I think the previous speaker before me thought saying that when he talks to Ben, then suddenly he forgot. Like, that's not the point. I think like being funny probably gets you in batas, but not in finals. You won't get it. So the point is to say, for example, if you quit your job and because you want to just stay with your family, when you talk to all the bankers, investment bankers, they're like, why you quit your job? It's like, why you're gonna get the promotion, you're gonna get all these great things. So why you quitting? So that when you talk to these people will tell you that people will realize that actually it was a bad move, right? I shouldn't have that because at the moment, and they can't even appreciate the time that they spend with their family because at the back of their mind it's like I made the wrong choice by quitting to be an investment banker. Sit down. So first, let's talk about standard of happiness, whether it's malleable or not. So I already proved that in their world they don't represent everything equally, so they must defend that they have dominant narrative of what does it mean to be happy. Second, they never talk about the cost of pursuing. It seems like in their world they're saying that if people don't do anything, it's bad. But they don't realize there is a cost for you to go pursue that in the first place, right? The mental strain and the physical pain that people actually feel when they have to work 16 to 70 hours for the big M&A acquisition or whatever deal they have. So we think that, for example, just to say that pursuing it is an absolute good, it's not. What are the costs that are associated with that? So I think in our world, we see that if the cost gets too high, then don't do it. If the cost is too low and you think that you make cost benefit and you think it benefits you, then do it, right? So I think they can't simply say that they want people to work hard without realizing that working hard also causes a lot of harms to individuals, even for the simple fact that people simply, it's not that easy, right? If not, we will all be rich now, but not, because working hard is not easy. So I think like the point is that there's a cost associated and they can't simply say that. And also, I think the first speaker made a concession when the first speaker said that at the initial point, when you're 20 or you're 30, you want to get credit card, you want to get house and all these things. But later, you might be able to change it once you somehow be able to change it. The problem is, all the time that you spend 20 to 30 years, it means all these times are lost and on that side of the house, right? This time you could have spent, for example, spending time with your family or spending time or like walking in the park or like doing nothing or like whatever you want to do. The point is that they simply can't say that it costs nothing. The point is and probably once after you get your credit card, after you get all your first house, your family won't be there anymore. Your parents might like have passed away. All these things simply are true, right? So we can't simply say that you work hard first, but somehow when you become big enough, you can somehow pick and choose what you want to be or what you don't want to be. The point is that there are a lot of costs associated with that, and they must engage with that. So let's talk about, then they say that in their world, somehow people can pick and choose, and they will pick the one that is easily achievable. The point is, if people already achieve that, then if your goal is that to give people purpose in life, so it must be something that hard to be achieved in the first place, right? But if it's so easily achievable, what's the benefit on your side? You claim that in your work you want people to work hard. So the end goal must be something that really far away for their benefit to materialize. And we think that's what harms people, right? Because given that they look so far away, they don't realize there are fleeting moments in life. They are just as important, they are just as happy, and you should appreciate that. So you lose sight of things that you actually make you happy. So I think that's what the comparison that they don't get, and they must again respond to that. And lastly, about counter narrative. They say in their world, they have counter narrative. They have motivational speakers can say, oh, you can choose to do whatever you want. Like, leave your boyfriend. Okay, great, right? But again, like motivational speakers against the years of indoctrination or the structure that we have, we think that you can't simply say that it will be equal, it rather not be, I think it will be unequal, and they must deal with that. So let's first talk about our model, because it seems like dating in our world, having no purpose means you are suffering. Having no purpose means like you are basically doing nothing. So I agree, you might be doing nothing, right? So walking in the park, you're literally doing nothing. But you just live in the moment doesn't mean that it's a negative value. It's just something that you live in the moment. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like literally it's just living in the moment, and you just do. If you feel like wanking, you do it, whatever. So the point is you just do it because you want to do it. And the problem in that side is because they keep conflating having no purpose with being miserable, which is untrue. Having no purpose means like if you want to eat, you eat. If you don't want to eat, you don't eat. If you feel like debating, then you debate, right? So I think the comparison is, I think they miss the comparison. Second thing is, if you realize the idea that they propose makes people always postpone the idea of happiness. It means like people simply can't take a back seat, right? Whenever they want to feel happy, they feel like, oh, but I haven't become the vice president of the Goldman Sachs yet. So I probably have one party to celebrate my new promotion, but then after that I won't even appreciate it. The problem is there's always a postponement of happiness in their world because they want to achieve the end goal. The end goal must be something that's really big. And we think the postponement of happiness is what bad. Like because you don't know how long you're gonna live, you don't know whether you get the promotion or not. So we think that making people postpone the idea of happiness is not something that is good. We rather people live in the moment. If the current moment is good, then great. But if it's not, then deal with it. I don't know, do whatever you want, right? So the point is that people can do whatever they want. Let's talk about depression, because it seems like in their world, because they think that in our world, depression, when we tell them to live in the moment, they're gonna like be screwed over. So what do we tell people in depression? We say, okay, if you are depressed, do whatever you do. If you feel like going to the doctor, you go. If you feel like don't want to go to the doctor, you do. What is the comparison? In their world, they think happiness is the cure-all, right? So it means they will tell these people, oh, if you are depressed, maybe because you are not the VP of Goldman Sachs, so just work hard lah. So if you work hard enough, you become the VP, and then you become happy. So that's the difference. I think in our world, people can do whatever they want. Live in the moment can be literally anything. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. And in their world, people will just tell them like, okay, work hard. Like work hard until you are too busy to even think about your own depression, and somehow the depression will go away. That's because you don't think about it. So I think that's the comparison that they feel, and that's why I think like they don't get it. So I think it's 27. So just for clarification, the only red room I've been in is like the karaoke, and the only six I've been is like standard 6. So I don't think like I've been nothing at all. For all the reasons, thank you.
Panel, I'll tell you what you're thinking right now. This debate is absolutely shit. How the fuck am I going to judge this debate? Do I give it to the funniest speaker? Because if that we are on disadvantage because we have Raj. But I'll make it a bit easy. Because if you listen by their narrative, you live in the moment. Right now, you can live in the moment and just listen to the speech. But after that, you're going to make a verdict. And if you make a wrong verdict, Patrick is going to come at you like a bulldog he is. So, and that's in short as to how their narrative looks like. But I'll make this debate easier. I'll clean up some things and make it a bit more technical for you to be able to adjudicate it. I think I'll talk about two things. First is whole idea of materialism, the malleability of the narratives, and second, how does one live this narrative? So let's go to the first, the malleability. I think this is the biggest chunk of substantive that side government is running on. So what they're essentially saying is that when you go by the narrative that happiness is what you push for, it's bad because there are standards to happiness, things like materialism, things like for you to be successful, for you to be rich. But the thing is, that is not the motion. The motion is the motion is not this house regrets that you have to be successful and rich to be happy. That's not the motion. So entirely what they're arguing is that they're arguing against the standard of happiness, but not so much that the happiness has to be the goal in life. And this was clearly pointed out from my POI to begin with, and I don't think they did much from that. But second, let's just take them at the best case, because what they're essentially saying is that the reason their standards of happiness are now because things like social media, billboards, individuals comparing one another. Oh bro, what are you happy about? No, this sucks, right? Things like this exist in status quo. But this has nothing to do with the fact that we are making happiness the goal. This has something to do with the nature of individuals that exist in status quo. They're still going to exist on their side. Meaning to say what? If their narrative is going to be that you should live by the moment and do what you want to do, the moment you talk to someone and say, hey, what are you doing? Living by the moment. Oh, is that what you're doing, living by the moment? Sucks. The same thing is going to happen. People are still going to compare what is your definition of living by the moment and what is our definition now of living by the moment. So if your logic is that there's always going to be a standard, that is something that is not mutually exclusive. That issue is going to be a wash on both sides because there's still going to be people comparing as to what your narrative of living by the moment is and what our narrative of happiness is. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're going to say that people are going to be swayed here, people are going to be swayed on that side also. Sit down. But more than that, let me tell you why I think that our version of personalized goals is something that can happen and it can be malleable. Look, it may be true. There are standards of happiness. They tell you things like you need to get a job, you need to get a car, you need to get a security. But it's not to the extent of what car you should get, what job you should get, and etc. Even within this subset as to what materialism is, your happiness is defined by your own set. Right? For example, people tell you should go to perhaps the standard is you should get a tertiary education. But as to what a tertiary education is, you can choose that is malleable to your own goals and your own happiness. That is what we are telling you with regards to sit down, with regards to these standards, and this is your best case that it exists, you can still personalize these things. A good example would be, for the longest time, people always thought for you to be happy in life is for you to have a relationship, right? But Patrick just told me that apparently in ADP they said this notion about Honjuk culture or something like that, where in life you can be single and you can still be happy. See now, this is individuals fighting the standards that you're talking about, that it is in existence. And so we think if your idea is that the standards exist, even within these individuals are personalizing what it means for them to be happy. The conclusion to this is just a dick swinging coming from outside government. Everything at best it's a wash, and they can't claim that it's excessive harm on our side. Sit down. But second, how do you then live life? I think it's very important as to what Patrick said. Life is fucking difficult, right? You don't know how to do it. There's no manual as to how to live life. If there is, life would be a lot easier. But because it's so difficult, you need something to drive you as to how to live life. Sit down. And this is why I think it's very much important. This direction must not be something that's too difficult. So what's the narrative at this point? You either live by the moment or you push for what makes you happy. The thing is, what the fuck does live by the moment even mean? I don't even know what it means. Can you imagine, sit down, the same example, the depressed person comes to you and says, bro, I'm so depressed, what do I do? Bro, live by the moment. Are you fucking kidding me? That makes no absolute sense. Sit down. But what's your alternative? If we tell you that your happiness should be a goal for you, we say, okay, you're depressed. Why are you depressed? Is it work? Does that not make you happy? What's that Marie Kondo? If it doesn't make you happy, kick it out, right? Something like that she said. I think that can be the narrative you tell this depressed individual. Because if their only practical harm is a depressed individual, sit down. I don't see how this helps this depressed individual. But on the flip side, if you tell them you should push for happiness, what actually makes you happy? You should know. Ask the question to yourself. What is making you depressed? Is that not making you happy? Change it, fix it, do something else, right? This is how you tackle the problem, the very same stakeholder that they talk about. Please sit down, right? Because I think it that's the response to that. But the extension to this, I also think that in life, if you don't have anything to push forward in life and you're always living by the moment, you won't know what to do with life. And it's not so much as Raj said that it's boring, but you won't know as in what's your word in life. Like you go to someone and say, hey, I need advice in this relationship because it's really difficult. All people say, do whatever, like live by the moment, live by the moment. There's no end goal as to how that helps you move on from life. As opposed to saying what actually makes you happy. Is being in this relationship making you happy? If not, fuck it, fuck someone else. Like things like this that you can push towards individuals. This is how you deal with things. Because narrative is something that's important. But a narrative that is so fucking vague, that means absolutely nothing, has no point in life to begin with. Life has no point when all you're doing is living at the moment, right? As opposed to the counter narrative, the existing of happiness, we would rather push forward this, even if it's not as perfect as they want to point for, right? But why is it that happiness is something that's very much important? As to the 6 levels of happiness Patrick talked about, and why we prefer that as a dominant narrative. Yeah.
So second speaker tells us that we need goals in order for you to have a purpose. Yet you say it's so malleable, so you don't have to get the best car, you can get the cheapest car. So where's the goals, bro?
The goals is malleable. That's something Patrick already talked about. I think he told you about 6 things that's very much important. How happiness is something can be dictated by your own terms. You can't just tell me that there is a template as to what happiness is, the same way as a template to your Prime Minister's speech in your debate, right? Because there isn't. There is always things that you can determine on your own terms. Because if that is the case, that means there'll be absolutely unhappy people. Think about it. Happiness is an emotion. Even if you live by the moment, the emotion is still going to be there. What are you going to feel about it? I don't know. So if you think about it, their proposal can be co-opted here. If happiness is living in a moment, then you can also do it here. Their proposal actually fits in here to begin with. But the other points, criteria in which what happiness we think is the narrative you should push for, because it's extremely accessible. It's something everyone can go into, even if you're poor or you're rich, because a break is something that is sufficient for you, or having a job that is by the means is sustainable for you and it's something that makes you happy, right? This is also something that's fulfilling. There's no cap. As much as they say you finish your goal and then what? No, there's no cap to how happy one can be, and you can always push yourself to being as happy as you want to be. And I think this is something that's important. Panel, I think in this debate, it's quite bad. But I think at the very minimum, opposition is a team that provides you some tangible benefit and some direction in life as compared to side the government will try to oppose.
Panel, the debate didn't happen. The debate didn't happen because for some reason we failed in using 21 minutes to convince government that there are other means of seeking happiness. And these are not something that I pulled out from my ass. These are things that everyone recognizes and everyone practices. Hence why it's the dominant narrative. So I'm going to give you 3 issues in my speech. You know it's a fluff debate when the 3 issues are literally burden, life, and happiness. So I'm just going to go with burden first. I'm going to make it easy. So government said from the beginning that you need to live life in the moment, basically conceding that living life is important. When we presented to you reasons why living life is hard, and we tell them what you're going to do, okay, just do things like, you don't have to feel happy, you don't have to feel sad, just do according to your own means. But if you're telling me that living life is important and all these other counter narratives exist, i.e. people will be pushing down your throat threats of capitalism, people will be pushing down on your throat things, for example, like old age and the fact that you need to do something. If you don't have your own guiding principle of happiness to tell you that these things might be prioritized, these things might be deprioritized because I seek my own form of happiness, all of these pressures, all of these harms still exist. Which is why we tell you that happiness functions as a product. It seems as if we are enabling these structures, but it's also the way to limit these structures from having a hold on you. Which is why when governments say that you will go through that period of time where you feel as if your life is not worth living because you don't have enough money. True. You will feel that regardless. You will feel it for a brief moment of time because at that point of time, your conception of happiness was based on what that standard is. Later on, you can be able to change that. And government has not engaged us on that regard. Second issue, on life. So one thing that they harp about is depression. Talking about how individuals often fall into depression because they have things like happiness that they cannot achieve. We agree. That's why we've told you that happiness exists insofar as being dominant to tell individuals that you must try first. There are things that don't make you happy. You will feel like life is not worth living. But you can always seek out alternative means. Your friends can also tell you that maybe this is not for you. You can try other things. In their world, I don't know what a counterfactual is because I don't know in their world how they've constructed it to tell you that these individuals who end up in depression regardless is able to get out of it because there's no guiding principle to pull them out. So we tell you sadness is temporary in our world, and we can see people die. Kate Spade, unfortunately, Alexander McQueen, all of these individuals died. But know that they died after trying all the methods to seek happiness, and they feel that maybe their happiness is not to live in this world. Their happiness is for it to all end because they've exhausted all means. This is the way for you to be able to seek, because at least you try first, and not everyone end up going to the end stage. Everyone can be able to seek out different means. So that is the reason why we think life is worth living in our end. So happiness is something that they want to talk about, and then say two things. Number one, there's no equal representation. We already said so, meaning to say that there are different narratives, and obviously there will be a prevailing narrative to tell you that you will feel certain things soon. But the pursuit of happiness tells you that you can always reclaim that level of sadness, like what Vino alluded to earlier. Previously, people say that being lonely is bad, but we reclaim that. And Dan Lahaf told us in ABP that Honjo allows you to be lonely, eat ramen by your own, and still be happy. All these things only happen because there's a force of pursuit of happiness to say that we can reclaim different channels. Secondly, valuable time. Red herring, because in your world, there's no conception of time because you tell people to live in the moment. Anyways, my saliva flying everywhere, I don't know why. So anyways, ultimately, the 6 standards that was given by me was never rebutted fully because they could never understand that these are not individual things that you can pick upon, but rather a combination of these 6 standards that allows happiness to function in this way. To be dictated on your own terms, to be changing and malleable, to be accessible by all regardless of where you're born to be fulfilling because sure, it's unlimited, but it also allows you to constantly find different means to make you happy. 5 is not counted by people. 6 is achievable because not everything is the end goal. Things can be interim goals, things can be short-term goals. So in the words of people, like how you judge this debate is when you look at the notes and you look at which speakers. Ask yourself one question, panel. Does it bring joy? If it brings joy, give it to opposition.
For that speech, I called and got this and continue.
I'm going to do one thing in my reply speech. I'm going to tell you whether or not personalized forms of happiness exist in 3 ways. So the first one, they say that counter narratives exist, but I don't think up to now they prove to us why these counter narratives would penetrate people or how they would now influence the decision of people to have different perceptions of happiness or why people would follow suit. I think very early on we also considered that if those counter narratives do exist, they're not equally represented in the world today. They fail to realize that that's just how the world works. There are advertisements, there are pop culture, you interact with people. There are some people who are alpha males, some people who are beta males, and sometimes you just succumb to one another. And that's how it just works. So they can't really prove to us why there would be more personalized forms of narrative. I don't know what a 5th, 4th degree of happiness, 1000 something, too many, right? But one of them was people can't take it away from you. And that is not necessarily true for all these reasons as well. What's the comparative? Vinod said that all these narratives that we told you also exist on our side. True, all these narratives also exist on our side. But very early on, we also tell you that the difference is that in our world, when you live in the moment, you can choose to stop halfway. That it doesn't have to be the ultimatum of your life. That it can change, that you can quit. That it doesn't matter if you don't want to live anymore, you can kill yourself. Because they assume in our world that living is a must. We don't think living is a must. If living in a moment means that you want to kill yourself, depression is too hard to solve, and that is just sometimes inevitable, you can go kill yourself. You don't have to strive for anything else. Okay, next. Is it malleable? So they told us that end goals can change, and end goals can change because sometimes there are different versions to what materialism is, and if it's easy to achieve, and when you change your goals, like basically what they say is achieving milestones along the way is a good thing because the process will give you happiness. I think what this means is it concedes 2 things. The first thing that it concedes to is that if your end goals can change, it also means that happiness can upscale, so you don't really feel the full amount of absolute happiness. But second, if it does change and if it does upscale, what it means now is that you now downplay the value value and moments of your past happiness in life. So if it is first to buy a cheap car, then it is to buy a more expensive car, you really would now forget how it is to feel happy when you bought that cheap car, because now that won't be your end goal, that won't be what your ultimate of happiness is. But second, if it's so easily achievable as they say, then what exactly is their benefit? Because a lot of the times it sounds like the benefit is trying hard, going through that process, feeling sadness at the same time. But if it's so easily achievable, then what exactly do they actually achieve? So I'm quite confused with that. But lastly, even if it is malleable, we already told you that there is some cost in seeking that happiness. I think what they fail to recognize in their speech is that the benefits the benefits in ops world is contingent on people being successful. Not a lot of people are successful. I think ops is stuck in a very strong survivorship bias that they believe that because they succeeded somehow, that they also everyone can do the same. That's not true. Not all people can do the same. So even if it is malleable, there is some cost. So even if it is to buy a cheap car, buying a cheap car also means taking up a loan, going through debts, and you are bound by these things over time, and that's just quite unfortunate, and we don't want that to happen. Because in our world, in their world, was it very clearly stated that time could be spent doing something else, right? It could be that you spend time with your family members that now passed away. It could be that you feel guilt because you didn't do what you wanted to do in the beginning. I have 30 seconds left in my reply speech. I don't know what else to say, but I was writing my reply speech when I didn't know what else to say. I was talking to Luke, should we go karaoke today? So that's right. I end my speech with that very good note.
Thank you very much. Salam depan salam.